Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel, Girl Gone Crypto. I am very excited to have Dr. Jesse Reich here on the show today. He is not only the CEO of the very popular blockchain-based game Splinterlands, but is also the co-founder and a project director for Steem Engine. But even more than that is a good friend of mine, and we've gotten to hang out multiple times at various conferences. And a little fun fact, you were actually the very first interview that I ever did.
Woo-hoo!
Ever. Back when Splinterlands was called Steam Monsters and you guys were launching an alpha. So anyway, Jesse, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. It's great to catch up. I feel like we don't get enough time, and you're awesome. So glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So we have all sorts of exciting things to talk about today. So we're going to talk about both Splinterlands and Steem Engine. So to start off, let's chat about Splinterlands. You guys have some really exciting things coming up here in the next little bit. So tell us about the mobile app that's going to be coming out.
Yeah, so this thing has been in the works for months. And I know for the players that are used to us, they're like, when is this thing going to be released already? It looks like it was supposed to be this last Monday, and we caught one last bug. And we're like, all right, we're going to hold off. But it looks like this coming Monday, which is, I should have known this date, but it's going to be the 10th of February. We're going to have this thing out finally. So I'm pretty excited about that because it just means that it's a really slick experience. Like if we're going to take longer than what we thought it should, at least should be really nice. And Matt's done a really nice job working with the devs for the mobile app. But it just plays smoothly, and it's a nice experience, and it looks beautiful, and I think our players are really going to dig it.
That's so exciting. When we're talking about adoption of blockchain, I know that one area that a lot of people talk about is the gaming industry and how that kind of market and that demographic is someone that really could benefit from the use of blockchain technology. And Splinterlands, I think specifically, gets a lot of really positive kind of hype and press in the crypto community because of the development, because of the experience. Like it doesn't feel like, you know, a decentralized app that's kind of so-so. It feels like a legit, like a Hearthstone player or someone would go and play it. And so I'm super excited for you guys with the mobile app coming out, because that just helps to expand, you know, that even more into having, you know, kind of that strong marketplace to be able to offer something to people.
Groups of people all over the world that only play on mobile or that only game on mobile. So when we're stuck just on a desktop or on a not so great browser experience on a mobile, then we're really limiting ourselves in terms of what our demographic is. But now that we have this coming out, it makes partnerships a lot easier, and it makes playing a lot easier. And there's just a lot that I think will welcome new players that, you know, it's like a 3-minute game, right? So you're now commuting, you pull out your phone, you play for a couple rounds, and then you can put it away. And I think that's going to match the lifestyle of a lot of our gamers quite well.
And so in terms of, you know, maybe for someone that is watching this that has never heard of Splinterlands before, probably should have started with this, but just can you give us a really quick overview of what Splinterlands is?
Yeah, so it's a trading card game that's built on a blockchain. So trading card games are like Magic, Hearthstone, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh! When they were physical, you could trade them, but you couldn't play them around the clock because there has to be a story, your brother has to be awake. When they're digital, the games are fun and you could play anytime, but you couldn't trade the cards because a lot of the centralized games don't like it when there's a secondary market for the cards and they actively prohibit it. And then another feature is that you can actually get rewarded here. So we kind of differentiate ourselves by being able to play anytime, trade anytime, and earn every single time that you win.
One thing that I am very stoked to get to chat with you about is you have a big announcement coming up, and it's actually getting premiered here for the first time on this interview. So take it away.
I'm real coy about this. So now that the mobile is out, or that the mobile will be out on Monday, sort of the next step here is we can start doing wallet integrations. And one of the big ones that we are slated to take part in is the Samsung wallet integration. So they'll have a app store that is through, or I guess maybe they call it their DApp store. But all of your Samsung S10s, when you click on your crypto hardware wallet, and inside of that are links to various apps. We are slated, building, and supposed to be one of them, so that literally everybody with a Samsung can go find Splinterlands just through their phone, through the hardware wallet on their phone. And that, I think, opens us up to a huge market. Samsung's a really big phone. It's a phenomenal company to be sort of associated with, of like, well, we're working with Samsung, like, that counts. There's companies that count and there's those that don't. When you start being able to talk about partnerships and leverage things like that, now it just opens a lot more doors for us. I think people will stop looking at us as this like oddity of some weird crypto game of like, oh, you're working with who? I mean, I think it just changes the mentality of what our business is and what the potential of these applications are. It just puts it on another scope and scale.
That is super exciting. Like you said, the user base, the exposure, the kind of brand recognition, like all of that is just, I'm really excited for you guys to have landed this partnership.
Yeah, it's nerve-wracking and it's not perfect because we're not in the store. So it's hard to go talk about, we don't like talking about things that haven't actually happened yet. Because then the players are like, hey, why isn't it here yesterday? And then like, we get it. You want it. Nobody wants it more than us. We're working on it. But yeah, it's coming and it's in progress and I'm really excited about it. And I think it's a big freaking deal.
So tell us a little bit more about what else is kind of on the development roadmap for Splinterlands right now. Like I know that you'd, before this chat, had talked a little bit about tournaments and land expansion. So let us know what's coming up for Splinterlands.
Yeah, so the tournaments right now are these like brackets that are synchronous, and these aren't great terms because people don't use synchronous and asynchronous in their life very much. But right now, two people have to be sitting, and in fact, our tournaments get pretty big. We can have 200 accounts plus playing, so you have to have 200 accounts playing at the same time in the same tournament, and it's not a super efficient use of everybody's time. And we like them. It's good competition, but we're also adding, in addition to our sort of bracket-based tournament, we're adding these Swiss-style tournaments where you will join the tournament, you'll get like 16 opponents, you'll make all your teams, but you won't be playing at the same time. So like if I'm an evening guy, I'll go in and I'll make my team in the evening. You might be a morning person, so you'll make your team in the morning. There'll be a set time when the matches actually fight. And then if there is a second round, we'll go into the second round and sort of do these. But now you're not sitting there for like, up to 3 hours really in these tournaments waiting. If you're in the finals, some of them are multiple hours long. Now it's just, you have to dedicate some time to make all the different teams on your own schedule, on your own time. And once we sort of have that figured out, these sort of asynchronous play anytime style, we can actually leverage it to go do guild fights and guild wars, because like getting two guilds to fight at the same time where everybody's in the same room at the same time on the same internet connection or something, that's tricky. But if we can make them where you have 24 hours to make up all your matches and then you can see what happens afterwards, like that gives us a lot more flexibility. So we'll get guild wars in there because of this sort of tournament change, and we'll also get boss fights. So there will some of the players that have supported the Kickstarters have been gotten boss fight packages. We're finally getting to the spot where the tournament system is getting adjusted. It'll roll out the Swiss tournament, which then lend themselves to Guild Wars boss fights, and players will be able to go choose to fight, some giant boss that, we'll start with single player and hopefully we'll add some, guild boss fights too. And I think that just adds a lot more variety to the game. And speaking of adding more variety to the game, like the biggest change that we're working on is a land expansion. So we're going to have land. Like we have the world is called the Splinterlands, and there's all these kinds of lands. We're going to go take that theme and actually make land that the players can own. And on that land, you can have mines. You can have expeditions where sort of a rarer type of mine, mining different things. You can have dungeons, and the goal is to make it so that the players can manage the dungeons themselves. And then finally, you'll have your buildings where you can do your crafting and making things. And the things that you can make will be cards that are tradable, cards that will have value. So that you can make an armor set, you can make a sword, you can make a wand, you could go have some special ability items, and those things will end up being cards that the players can trade back and forth and actually have value, and that they can play in the game to earn more or to help them level up and rank up and get more prizes by playing. So there's a lot of like new ecosystem that's under development. And especially as the mobile, it goes from like centerpiece, everything has to be mobile, to, hey, mobile's mostly done, and now we can get back to sort of other core game elements. It just frees up a ton of what we can build.
Wow, and that sounds really interesting in terms of being a digital asset that someone can own. And so I almost imagine that even if someone wasn't super, active in playing the game, this could be kind of an interesting almost investment for them to be having that kind of digital asset. Is that something you guys foresee happening?
Yeah, I love the idea of having more than one player type in the game. Mm-hmm. So, an inspiration for this might be like the Civilization series. Mm-hmm. So, your collectible card traders and your Civilization type gamers are usually not the same people. Maybe they are, but those are pretty different genres of game. And so now we're opening this up to like the Civilization style folks, some of the guys that like Clash of Clans, Clash Royale. There's some other, we can just build kind of different genres, but it's all relying on the same kind of underlying digital asset. So these assets will have value in all of these different games, or all of these different expansions to the games that we make. And I think it'll just keep driving value towards the cards. And one of the best parts of our game, which is really unique, is that you can rent cards. So we provide all these rewards for players. Like the tournaments that we've done are almost up to $100,000 that we've given out now. Mm-hmm. And the players that have the better cards have more chances at the higher prize pools. And some people don't have hundreds or thousands of dollars to spend to buy the cards, but they do have 10 to 20 bucks to rent them. And so we see a lot of players like renting cards to participate in tournaments to go have a chance at getting these prizes, which to me is really exciting and just a great use case for blockchain, because I'd never lend a physical card worth $1,000 to someone. I never know that I get it back. But on the blockchain, I just click delegate, and the system knows that I own the asset and the other person's renting it. And like you're saying, this kind of separates the people buying assets and holding them for passive income versus mm-hmm. those that like to play with them to sort of like fight in these tournament systems.
Yeah, I love that you guys are developing this whole ecosystem where people that are, in all different aspects of wanting to get involved in the game can. And it's amazing that you have that passive income opportunity for some of those kind of big holders that have invested in some of those cards. And so just creating that kind of full ecosystem that's self-supporting and trustless. Like you said, you wouldn't ever actually, lend that to someone, but allowing them to that it's on the blockchain is such a different experience.
There's just some things that you can do on a blockchain that you'll never be able to do with physical cards, and that you'll never be able to do with traditional games. And things like renting these assets, I think there's an exact showcase of like earning something with an actual value. That's also something that these digital games very rarely do. And then allowing secondary markets, like all this stuff together, you just can't really find that in other places.
So you had mentioned like the value of the cards. What do you think are some of the primary drivers to increasing the value of those cards? Is it mainly usage of the game, or what would you say to that?
The biggest one is just the number of players, right? Because we do finite amounts. Like in each series, we sold out of the alpha, we sold out of the beta, we're into the Untamed edition now. And as the number of players in the ecosystem grow, and you have a finite amount of cards, I mean, you have an economics background, and other people can listen. I mean, I don't want to be in a position where I tell you this is what I think will happen to the price of cards. But over time, if we're able to get more players and the supply is fixed or actually goes down, what's really, a unique thing about our game is that when you combine cards, they level up. And so like in the alpha edition, there were 300,000 packs. Each pack contains 5 cards. So there were 1.5 million cards total. Because of all the combining, we're down around 350,000 cards total that exist now. So not only are there more players, but there's fewer of these cards in circulation. And so an example might be, whereas we were selling alpha packs for $2, recently the remaining alpha packs are going for about $14 to $15 right now. So scarcity is a hell of a thing, and I think our game has introduced a ton of scarcity by this card combining mechanic, which again you don't get in physical games, and I don't really know of any digital games that do that. It's this blockchain asset based thing that helps us pioneer kind of new styles and variants and rules and just like economic situations.
So let's switch gears a little bit and talk about Steem Engine. So before we dig into kind of what's going on with you guys right now, go ahead and just maybe give a really brief overview of what Steem Engine is for those who haven't heard of it.
Sure. So people like tokens and they want to be able to make their own tokens. And so the impetus for Steem Engine was like, ERC20s are really cool. Being able to make your own token, that's really useful. And we wanted that to happen on the Steem blockchain. So we created Steem Engine as a way to create tokens and trade them, but not have to use other chains. Actually, Splinterlands really wanted to go have a security token, like have basically our stock shares, but we wanted it tradable on the Steem platform. So again, we were like, well, nothing like this exists. Why don't we go build it? Well, after we built that, people didn't just want tokens, they wanted tokens that had more utility. So then what we did is we said, Steem, it works pretty well. Like maybe not every aspect is amazing for every person, but like if you could have your own version of steemit.com or your own version of the Steem blockchain, that would be really neat. And it could help you kind of, I want to go blog, and I want to get paid to go blog, and maybe you have a product. You could give me micropayments to go blog about your product or give reviews. And so as a business, I can start attracting customers by doing micropayments to my users to talk about our product. So we went from just having these tokens that did nothing to having these tokens that can live in these kind of blogging platforms, so that now it's a social media experience as well. Then we added NFTs so that now we can track things individually, which is going to be the background or the basis for us to go form marketplaces and overall a platform for people to build marketplaces. Does that make sense?
It does. And marketplaces is what I'm really excited to talk about, because I think the potential for what you guys are building there is massive in the blockchain space. So tell us a little bit more about what you guys are planning in terms of marketplaces.
So it's daunting. What we're doing is daunting, and like trying to figure out what all this stuff is going to look like and how we categorize it, and just building a giant catalog for everything in commerce is huge. But at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is make like a distributed Amazon, a distributed eBay, a distributed Etsy, a distributed Uber, and really try to make it like we will host some giant unwieldy catalog of all things that somebody might want to sell, including things like labor, services, events, digital goods, physical goods, and maybe even some financial or restricted ones as well. And put all of those kinds of things into a giant database, which is the Steem blockchain, and be able to go make listings for all these things. So it could be a job board, it could be like a decentralized Groupon, it could be a services. So we could be like a distributed Yelp, like trying to build the platform where we are the ones that are going to help store all this data, categorize it so everybody knows how to read it for developers. And then with all that data, it's probably going to be kind of messy. So one website to sell everything in the world probably won't make sense. And what I think will happen is that people will be like, wow, there's a lot of useful data. There's a lot of products for sale. I have some expertise in this one thing. I'm going to go set up a shop or a marketplace just for these things, which maybe I will buy and sell from others. Maybe I will be the original manufacturer on. Maybe I'll be providing the labor or the service personally. Maybe I will be listing things for other people, births and deaths and marriages and whatever. But what we can do is use the Steem blockchain as a giant database to go store all of the sort of potential points of commerce, and then we can let everybody make payments and accept payments to go. We're going to try to make it so that it's multi-currency. Ideally, it will be fiat as well, because I want to get that in there. And all told, I think we can build. I thought for a while that a marketplace is the single best business that exists. It's a pain in the ass to start, but once it starts, it just has unmatched potential. And the only thing that would be better than a marketplace is a marketplace for marketplaces. And so that is my ultimate ambition, is to make it so everybody that wants to start their own marketplace doesn't have to start from scratch. There might be tons of products already logged in, and they just have to build their one site, their one storefront. And then again, it ties back into the publishing aspect of, all right, I have my store, where do I find customers? Well, it turns out there's this whole blockchain social media thing, and maybe I even have my own version of it. And now I'm incentivizing users to talk about my projects, talk about my store, talk about my goods, my labor, my services, my concert, whatever it is. I can get social media tied directly into the commerce that we're doing. And I guess ultimately, if I can help other people make money, this can be a successful business. And so marketplaces are so powerful economically that so freeing from whatever restrictions are in your local area. It just feels like this is how we can build global markets that can change the world. And but I don't want to build the global market that changes the world. I want to make it so that everybody can sort of make their own, but without having to do all the development. Like the development of all this has been a monster, like 6 months, a year and a half, and it's like studying all kinds of things, and we're inventing it. And I just don't think everybody in the world could replicate what we're doing. But if we make it easy for them and we just say, this is how you build a market, then I think I could just see Steem becoming this phenomenal platform where people are building marketplaces, and this is where commerce happens. And I think it will just spawn so many applications that rely on the data that's in this back end.
What I love about that, what I think is so cool, is I think a lot of us that are in this crypto space, we're here because we want to work towards a different society. We want to help create the society that we actually want to live in, that's less dependent on centralized authorities and systems. And so what's so cool about this is that if we have more of these decentralized blockchain-based marketplaces, we're kind of taking out that middle, and we're getting back to kind of that peer-to-peer, person-to-person, neighbor-to-neighbor, kind of interaction that we can do, but on a global scale, which is really cool.
I mean, the big corporations constantly politicize what they do. It's more prevalent in social media, where you'll see like Reddit takes down threads, Twitter will shadow ban you. Mm-hmm. But I've seen even games have like banned players, or they block players from the market. Like basically it makes it so that you can't speak truth to power. Mm-hmm. And that's not a system or a world that I want to live in, or that I want my kids to live in. And so this is a way that I think of it as living off the grid. I don't want to live off the grid. I just don't want to use their grid. Like, I like having electricity. I like being able to shop. I like being able to travel. Those are wonderful things. But sometimes I just don't want like the big centralized corporate entities to be my counterparty. I would trust you with like my show and my media way more than I would want to trust like Facebook or Twitter, or like some big. So it just gives me more choice over who I'm going to partner with, what business I'm going to do. And like you said, I think that's the crypto ethos, that we want to be free. We want to be able to do all these same things. But, hey, corporate guys, you're not really the ones we want to do this with.
This has been so much fun getting to chat with you. I feel like we could probably go on for like at least another hour just talking about all of the amazing things that you guys are up to at both Splinterlands and Steem Engine. And just a quick little shout out to the Steam community. You guys dropped all sorts of amazing questions for Agroed in a post that I put out yesterday. And so what we've decided to do, since there were so many awesome questions in there, is to have another chat where we do more of like a fireside chat. We're just kind of hanging out, talking Steam.
Like chit chat.
A little chit chat.
Let's business. Let's here's the product roadmap. Like let's just hang out.
Exactly. So that'll be the next video. So watch for that. But Jesse, thank you so much for coming on the show. Before we go, did we miss anything that you wanted to chat about, or do you have any kind of last words for everyone?
No, I'm really excited about your show. Like I'm glad to see Girl Gone Crypto just keep putting out episodes, and I've been following along your new partner somewhat too, and I don't know, I like what you guys are doing, and it's fun. I'm just excited. Like, it's nice to see altcoins suddenly come back a little bit. It seems like the Bitcoin halving has a lot of like wind at our sails, and the whole mentality. I got the first like, hey, you should invest in this coin, it's going to 1000x. I got the first one today, and I'm like, I think things are changing again, so it feels like the next part of this cycle, and I'm very excited for it. So we'll see where that goes.
It's been a long winter. I think we're all ready for it.
Yeah. Well, I'm seeing the signs that I look for, signs of spring, like the leaves are coming back, or the leaves are falling. I guess I want, signs of spring. Leaves are sprouting again. Things are coming. Things are growing, and it's an exciting time. And I don't know. I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful to catch up. You're wonderful, and I don't know. I'm looking forward to what the additions to Splinterlands and sort of the creativity and marketplaces that people will bring to Steem Engine.
Awesome. Well, thank you again so much for coming on the show. And for those of you that are listening, be sure to leave a comment below letting us know what some of your favorite things were from our chat today. And if you have any questions about Steem Engine or Splinterlands, and we'll make sure that those get answered for you as well. So again, thank you, Jesse.
Yeah, my pleasure. Talk to you soon.